everybody, I'm McCrory, and today I'm back with another Doctor Who Series 12 review, this time of Episode 9, Ascension of the Cybermen. Very interesting story. Again, I always say that every week, it's a very interesting story, because usually with Series 12 it actually is. But we're getting obviously towards the finale now, part 1 of the finale. Interesting stuff, a lot of stuff to talk about here and there, but it's mostly going to be, this looks interesting, but we don't know what's going to happen with that yet, because of course it's, part 1 of 2. Yeah, so let's just talk about the story, break down the characters, best bits, and especially for this one, because it's a bit of a finale one, we're going to talk about a couple of theories that I have as well, because I've been thinking, which is quite dangerous, I shouldn't do too much of that, but I have been thinking, and I'm going to get onto it, and then I'll talk about my rating out of 10 as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this one, because it was actually a lot, there was actually quite a lot that I really liked in this. The story explores something that's been talked about in Doctor Who for a while, which is the Cyber Wars. Something that's been referenced here and there all the time. We haven't had it too much in Russell T Davies' era, because that was more the parallel universe Cybermen, which is actually kind of interesting, obviously, to look back on. But since then, we've had in the Moffat era, which, as much as I don't really like the Cyberman stories in New Who, have done a little bit of development with the Cybermen stories, especially with Nightmare in Silver, which admittedly I really don't like as an episode. However, it does touch upon the whole thing of the Cyber Wars and the Cybermen being a sort of intergalactic threat as sorts. This story explores that and kind of expands on that. This is the final days of the Cyber Wars, and I really like how it just throws you straight into that. We get this sort of story on a distant planet with this final sort of human colony. There's not many of them left. This small sort of abandoned town, village type thing, which, by the way, looked great. I don't know whether that was set or location filming. I think it was location filming. I think it's actually an abandoned sort of set of houses and stuff all together in Cardiff, which again is just lucky. But it looked great on the episode. I was very impressed with that. It did genuinely look a little bit like a war zone. All the human characters, despite not being too well developed, felt sort of, worth something. But getting to actually see the Cyber Wars was fantastic. I was a bit questionable about the flying Cybermen heads. However, I didn't mind them because they are just cyber drones, and I actually quite liked it. I prefer the flying heads as drones to the whole actual flying Cybermen that we've had for the past few years. Stephen Moffat making the Mondasian Cybermen fly is something I've still never forgiven him for, and I still hate that with a passion, especially with it being on the posters as well. That just ruins everything, and it's so aggravating. So I'm glad to see they didn't do that again. Having 3 actual Cybermen, one of them being the lone Cyberman from the last episode, Aarstad, and the other 2 being rusty old versions of, not the Cybermen, but that sort of era design. They're more, I think they're just general Mondas Cybermen, because it doesn't have the C. But it's that Russell T Davies era design that we've become accustomed to. I'm glad as well, because as much as I don't really love those designs, they are a millennia better than the Nightmare in Silver ones, which, as you may know from my Cybermen ranking videos, I can't stand. I really hate with a passion. So it was great to see the Cyber Wars, the actual threat of the Cybermen. The Cyber Cybermen actually had a threat, felt impactful, killed people. It was genuinely quite well done, and yeah, brilliant. The 2 sets of survivors go off on different sort of journeys, both to try and get to the same location. However, one gets stranded and taken in by this ginormous sort of old Cyberman battle carrier, and the rest of them, the Doctor's crew, get to the planet that they're trying to get out, which I can't quite remember the name of, but yeah, quite good. They get there, the other guys get to this sort of big cyber battle cruiser, and then there's a sort of big cliffhanger, of course, with the Master and everything like that. So yeah, that's great. Let's talk about the characters. The Doctor, the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker. Not going to talk about too much because it's basically the same as it has been for the rest of the series. Jodie Whittaker is doing a brilliant job, as per. She's bringing a brilliant performance with the emotion, with the acting, all the dialogue, everything like that. Shouting at the companions. Yes. Happy with that. Every time she does something like that, I'm just like, oh, that's good. I'm glad. Because it's such a big step up from Series 11. But yeah, I've said all this stuff basically through every other episode of the series. I'm going to say the same stuff next week as well. I don't have to say it. Just going back and watch all those other reviews, it basically covers exactly the same emotions. Jodie Whittaker is brilliant as the Doctor. She's doing a great job in this episode, as well as she's done for the last however many. The companions, we're not going to talk too much about, but I will say Yaz. Thank God. Thank God. Thank the Lord. She finally had something to do. Not only something to do, but she actually gave a little bit of a speech. She actually had a bit of an emotional moment, telling people what to do when the Doctor wasn't there, and that was brilliant, and I really liked to see that. Graham was funny. Graham was funny. He showed some initiative. He helped them shut down the ship and propel it to the battle cruiser. I quite like seeing the development of Graham and Yaz taking a little bit of control, and actually seeing the development all the way from the beginning of Series 11 to where they are now. It actually does show that. I know we haven't seen too much of Yaz and too much of Graham in certain places here and there, but I like to think, looking at them here and then looking at them in Woman Who Fell to Earth, you can see the development. However, with Ryan had one job in this episode, and that was to run away, and he couldn't even do that, so great, well done. Human characters, all of which were, serviceable, not really in depth, not really too developed, but I don't care, because they served the plot well enough that they just were there. They're not historical figures, they're not big characters as of yet, we don't know where they're going to go, but they serve the purpose of being the last humans alive. Seeing a few of them get killed was pretty good, quite like that. There's still a little bit of mystery there though, especially with Julie Graham's character, who there was a lot of rumours about back in a couple of weeks ago. So I'm wondering if that goes anywhere. I'm not going to say it, of course, because if it does turn out to be true, I don't want to spoil it for people. But if that rumour in particular is true, then I'm kind of concerned, but we'll see next week. I'm not going to go in on that yet. The Cybermen were brilliant. The Lone Cyberman, played by Patrick O'Kane, I think. Again, phenomenal. Didn't have as much to do as the last episode. He was scarier in the Mary Shelley one. That's because of the lighting and just generally the demeanour. And the shock of seeing this Cyberman for the first time is obviously quite impactful as well. Now that we've had a week to sort of distill on it, it's still scary, but it's not in the same level. He's just a very good character. Like, he's a very great character to watch. As a Cyberman, and as a Cyberman story, it's something that's so unique and a bit of a breath of fresh air. I really did love what they did with that. I loved seeing the Cybermen again. Don't love the design. I genuinely don't love the design that much. However, there's some weird nostalgic buzz. The first shot of that Cyberman head floating through space and then the title sequence starting through the eye is one of the best opening sequences, like pre-title sequence, that I've seen in Doctor Who in a long time. Like, it was so just exciting and got you so into the mood of the episode straight away. It's such a hectic and wild episode with things and bombs going off and drones and all that sort of stuff, and the Master and Gallifrey and all this sort of stuff, that it was so nice to have a pre-title sequence that was just calm, relaxing. It was a voiceover talking about how the Cybermen are coming back as it slowly zooms in on a floating Cyberman head in the middle of space. Seeing that design that we haven't seen in, well, a couple of years, I suppose, since the last Peter Capaldi one. They just sort of showed up in the background. But this, they actually felt properly serviced. They felt like proper, genuine Cybermen, which I actually quite liked. So yeah, props to them for really making the Cybermen feel scary again, especially not the ones that are the lone Cybermen, because obviously it's easy to make that one scary because he's angry and he's emotional. They actually made the Cybus ones quite scary as well, walking around shooting. I actually felt on edge most of the episode because of the Cybermen, so props to them for that. Oh, and the new design is gorgeous. The new design is genuinely brilliant. I'm really happy with it. They're a little bit too shiny for my liking, I think, but the head and the rest of it and the spikes, and it's gorgeous. We're going to see more of them next time, so I'll probably talk about more of them in next week's review. But I really love the design as of yet. Probably better than Nightmare in Silver for me. Maybe slightly better than the Cybus ones. Not 100% on that one yet. Could be either or, but I do like the design. Before we move on to best bits and theories and all that sort of stuff, we're going to talk about another character called Brendan, who I think everyone can sort of sympathise with. Is a very strange one, a very separate storyline which doesn't really seem to tie in. A lot of theories I had throughout that he would end up being Aarstad, the lone Cyberman, the whole, oh, he wants to be a guard, all that sort of thing. Then he fell from that height and survived, and I was thinking, what's going on here? And then it seems like he's aged or something, like he's aged quickly over time, which is a bit weird. And then there's that kidnapping thing at the end where he sort of gets strapped to a chair or whatever. We're going to talk about that in theories because there's a few things I want to say, but overall that was very clever the way they mixed that in with the main story, just cutting away to it every now and then, which is obviously going to have a bigger amount of importance in the next episode. But I'm very interested to see where that's going, and it was very intriguing. It didn't feel like it was dragging in any way. I didn't feel bored by those segments. I felt like I was actually trying to guess what was happening, and that's interesting. That's what you should have in this show. So yeah, very happy with that. Talking about the best bits of the episode, my personal favourites, and there's a few little things. Gallifrey showing up again. Really liked that, although a little bit disappointed they just used the same shot from episode 2. I was hoping there'd be something different. The destroyed version of Gallifrey and the Master comes through that sort of gap in the sort of board boundary thing, whatever they called it. Gallifrey, the Master, loved seeing the Master, and I'm really warming to Sacha Dhawan's performance as the Master, really weirdly enough, because like we haven't seen him for that much, but could be my favourite TV master, or one of, and that's a bit of a stretch. I need to see more of the classic masters. However, compared to John Sim and Michelle Gomez, he's absolutely bloody killing it. He just embodies the character so well, and the music that goes alongside him, Sergio Nakanola's score, is phenomenal. I love it, and every time I hear the little glimpses of that motif when he arrives, is just hauntingly brilliant, and I think it's very exciting. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of Sacha Dhawan in the next episode. But yeah, seeing him show up at the end of this was very exciting, as with the Gallifrey stuff. To see where that's going to go. And with the next episode being called The Timeless Children, yeah, we'll talk about that again with theories, but yeah, I'm very, very happy with that. And obviously, another thing I loved as well, the Cyber War stuff. I did talk about this before, but I loved seeing Cybermen attacking humans and blowing stuff up, and drones and ships looking amazing as well. Doctor Who's new budget with the Chris Chibnall era has really made it possible to make Doctor Who look almost sort of movie grade in some of the scenes and some of the sequences with the spaceships and the gunfire and all that sort of stuff. It just looks incredible, and something that probably wouldn't have even been possible like even 2 or 3 years ago. It's actually brilliant and incredible. I can't get enough of it. In terms of theories, let's talk about Brendan. People thought he might have been the lone Cyberman, maybe. At least I did. I thought he might have been Aarstad throughout, just sort of thinking, oh, it's at the soul to think maybe this is Mondas. I still think that planet that they're on could be Mondas. That's the only thing I'm really, because it's sort of Earth-like, but so separate from anything that it just didn't really add up too well. The character, Brendan, gets shot and falls off a cliff and survives perfectly fine. A lot of people I know on Twitter were saying, oh, Time Lord maybe? People were expecting he could be a Time Lord. However, I don't even think it's that, because Time Lords don't just survive like that. We've seen, I mean, if he was a Time Lord, that would be a discredit to like the Fourth Doctor, who of course we know just fell from a sort of satellite dish and then just regenerated. And the fact that he didn't regenerate, he was just absolutely fine. It was just a bit like, that he can't be a Time Lord, and I can kind of see that. There's a couple of things though, because at the end of the episode, there was something. They strapped him to this sort of machine. They put a clock down. We had a significant shot of the clock, and we had something put on his head, strapped him down, 2 on the side of his head and 1 on the front of his head. First thing that came to my mind was Chameleon Arc. I genuinely think it could be that. He could be a Time Lord. And if he is a Time Lord, there must be some sort of special thing about this Time Lord as to why he didn't die when he fell off that cliff. I really like this. If it is a Chameleon Arc thing, that's a very interesting way of showing it. Again, a very primitive version of that, not in any way related to the TARDIS. Another thing it could be, that I thought, maybe that if this planet is Mondas, and these people are Mondasian, we know that the Cybermen sort of originated because it's humans trying to live longer, trying to become immortal. If Brendan is a sort of strange anomaly, sort of immortal character, then the Mondasian people might be using him to try and extract this sort of stuff, and maybe use that to make them live longer. Maybe that doesn't work, but maybe they still keep adapting the science, and they use Brendan as a template and eventually turn into Cybermen, going from Mondasian to, whatever from there, like just continuing on. It's a theory, it's a very weak theory, but I feel like it's interesting, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. I don't think Brendan has anything to do with the Timeless Child that a few people were saying. I think that's a bit of a stretch, because, well, and we'll talk about the Timeless Child stuff, the only things we've seen about the Timeless Child are occasional flashbacks of a small black girl in sort of classic looking robes outside this enormous sort of tower thing. We know it can't be Brendan. The Brendan can't be the Timeless Child, because the Timeless Child, as we've seen, is a black girl. Like, this is a white man. It's a very big stretch. A lot of people are making connections and theories and all that sort of thing. I don't know whether they're going to do anything more with Joe Martin's Doctor, although I believe Chris Chibnall did say in an interview that they might be exploring that. I don't know whether that's this series or next series. I didn't actually read the interview, if I'm being honest. I saw a notification, I was like, oh, cool. I'm interested to see where that goes, if it goes anywhere. But with the Timeless Child, probably going to be answered next week with the whole Timeless Children episode. I think the Timeless Children refers to the Master and the Doctor, if I'm being honest. I feel like because they're the 2 Time Lords that are in focus, even through the Next Time trailer, which is significantly longer than most of the other Next Time trailers, seeing these 2 mainly just together throughout the whole thing, I like the fact that the Doctor does not look like they're here. She is with the companions at all. No sight of Ryan, Yasmin and Graham alongside the Doctor in those scenes. It's just the Doctor and the Master, and I couldn't be more excited for that, because as much as I actually like the companions, I really feel like there's something really special about Jodie and Sasha when they're put together on screen, and just really just sort of radiates the right energy for both of those characters. Both characters that we've all known and loved for almost 50 years. That being the Master, 56 or 57 years for the Doctor. But it's brilliant to see that again. I'm very interested to see where it's going to go. However, in terms of the Timeless Child, I don't know. There's plenty of different things that are getting thrown about, but we will see next week. I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty solid. If I'm being honest, probably better than most of the New Who Cyberman stories. I say most because it still doesn't beat World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls, because they were just fantastic and just so out there and brilliant and just really exciting. However, I feel like this dealt with the Cybermen better than perhaps they were done definitely throughout Matt Smith's era. Definitely Death in Heaven, Dark Water, maybe even like some of Tennant's as well. I prefer this to like the Next Doctor, for example. I can't really compare it to that of Doomsday and what was it called again? Oh my god, Age of Steel, Rise of the Cybermen. I feel like such a fake fan now. So long ago, but those were pretty good. I haven't seen them in a while though, so it'd be hard to compare. However, I really, really like this story, and it really does stand out for me as like one of the better Cyberman stories. Like properly stand out, properly like well done, properly understanding of the Cybermen in terms of lore as well, which I thought was particularly interesting. Anyway, I've rambled for way too long now, so I'm gonna let you all go. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment below for any more suggestions in the future, subscribe to this channel with notifications on if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in next week's review. Hopefully we're going to do an Everything We Know video as well. I didn't manage to get one of those out this week, but hopefully next week, that's a possibility, if I get time to get to it. I've also got a Patreon page if you want to support the channel, and Discord server if you want to join the conversation about the latest stuff about Doctor Who and all that sort of thing. I've also got social media which you can check out in the description below, and yes, that's pretty much it. I hope you have a lovely day. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.